Houston, Texas, with the absolute most exciting introduction I've ever given. We have Organo's newest diamond, Miss Dianne Solano, leading our conversation of success. Many of you have seen her on the Organo stage. She captivates, she captures attention, she motivates, and she leads people to their dream life. But I'm going to start with one simple question. Dianne, maybe tell us a little bit about life before Organo, and then your why, which has been so powerful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bob Rakowski. You know, it's been an absolute dream and pleasure to be part of this incredible Organo movement. An absolute dream come true, because I was wishing and asking and praying for a solution to a stressor in my life, which was financial. That's my truth. I was looking for an opportunity with a guaranteed outcome, with a guaranteed success rate if I was willing to do the work. And a little bit about my background. For those of you on the call that don't know me, I am a very hungry and very coachable distributor in Organo. I actually joined the business about 4 years ago. And it was you, Dr. Bob Rakowski, that I was absolutely blessed with finding the opportunity of Organo. Thank you for sharing that, because it's been an absolute life-changing journey and dream. So, you know, let's rewind. 4 years ago, I had, left my practice, decided to become a mom. Many parents on the call can probably relate to that. You know, when you become a parent, your priorities change and your time changes, and a lot of beautiful things enter your life, and there's a lot of other stressors that come with it. And my background was in nutrition. It was in health and wellness. I loved empowering lives, and being pregnant with Dylan, I decided to take a self-paid maternity leave and enjoyed every single moment of his early childhood. It was amazing, him being a baby, him being a toddler. And then my life took a turn, and I ended up becoming a single mom. And that's when I started to panic, because I could feel almost like the Titanic ship. It was sinking. And I knew that had I gone back to the old paradigm of the way I did business, being a single business owner, there was no way, absolutely no way I could spend the time with my son and have the life quality I wanted to have, not only for him, but for my aging mother. And that's when life got real. And I remember praying every night to God, saying, you know what am I going to do? I had nothing to fall back on. I had no stocks. I had no real estate. I had nothing of the traditional backup plan we tend to, structure ourselves with for financial security. And I knew going back to practice was not feasible. 12 hours every day running my own business, there was no way I would get ahead. And I knew that I needed to do something different. So that's when, you and I chatted, Dr. Bob, about 4 years ago, and I approached you and I asked you, look, how do I really make some serious income, helping people stay healthy, helping people stay strong, being on purpose, and how do I leverage this? And that's when you talked to me about Organo. So I had a very big why. My why was having the life of my dreams. I wanted a new life. For my son, I wanted to have time freedom with him. I also wanted to be there for my aging mother and have life quality. I wanted choices. And I didn't have that being in survival. And it was through the vehicle of Organo that I was actually being able to not only stretch myself and expand as a human being and expand as a leader, but also be able to impact many lives around the world. And I'm just having so much fun doing this. So it's been a blessing. And that's essentially the beginning of the journey.
Phenomenal. So I have had so much joy watching this. And so, there's people that go Sapphire, and there's people that build a Sapphire organization. There's people that go Ruby and or there's people that build a Ruby organization. There's people that go Emerald or build an Emerald organization. They're very, very different. Someone can actually go Emerald or even Diamond on a massive promotion. But you built a rock-solid Sapphire organization, then you built a rock-solid Ruby organization, then you built a rock-solid Emerald organization, and we know what's in your future: rock-solid Diamond, rock-solid Blue Diamond, rock-solid Black Diamond. We've had a number of conversations, and I love how you broke it down to the 7 things that you really thought were most critical. So one by one, I want to walk through these with you. Starting with mindset. So tell me how important mindset is in your life and the people you coach.
Okay, so this one's huge, because I think without the proper mindset, without the proper understanding of where you want to go, you cannot create an action plan. You can't map out your success without knowing what you want. It's like taking a vacation. You know, if I wanted to go to a destination, well, before I buy an airplane ticket, I have to know what destination I want to be at. I want to know what kind of experiences I want. Do I want to, walk around, the Eiffel Tower and see the city of Paris? Do I want to lie on the beach? What's my destination? What does it feel like? What does it look like? And for me, it's also understanding how we're wired. So because I have such a passion for brain chemistry, I have such a passion for the new science of how our thoughts create things. And this is known as the quantum model of reality. And the truth is, with the new science now, we're starting to really understand that the brain is such a complex structure. We are high frequency. And for those on the call that maybe want to understand a little bit more about this new science, it is everything and anything to do with your life. What you think and how you feel actually creates an electromagnetic frequency that you send out into the universe. How you think and how you feel creates almost like a radio station. So I always use the example, look, you can be at 99.9, I'm a complete victim. You could be at 102.9, needy and desperate, or you can be at 108.9 radio station where you're feeling empowered and on path. So how you think and how you feel creates your reality. And we're actually starting to pierce the veil of how this is starting to unfold and how we're actually starting to create every circumstance and thing in our life. And because I knew this, I knew that how I thought and how I felt around my life and specifically the business would create the roadmap and the vibrational match, the reality of all the things that would come into my life. So as long as I felt that I was a vibrational match of being a leader, as long as I felt I was a vibrational match to being a diamond, then the how would unfold. Because if we are attracting everything in our lives, Dr. Bob, if we were doing that, then the right circumstances, people, and things will show up into your life to create that reality. And the science has proven it. And this has been my newest passion just before getting into Organo, because I was just so enthralled with why my life took a different direction. So for those on the call, if you are passionate about quantum science and the reality of how we create our lives. I mean, there's many experts on the field showing that today. And Dr. Joe Dispenza was actually one of my biggest mentors who helped me get onto this new path of really being conscious about what I thought and how I felt, because I was creating every circumstance in my life. And it was actually my first event in understanding this power of the mind that Organo showed up a month later, because I knew that everything that I was going through, all the stressors, was a cause of my faulted thinking. So they say, you're creating your reality every day, whether you know it or you don't. So you might as well create it consciously. And truly, no one changes their reality. No one actually fundamentally changes until they actually change their energy. And I invite everybody on this call to really maybe be open to the opportunity of understanding this cause and effect even more, because truthfully, you're either a victim of your life or you're the creator of your life, and you get to choose one. And I chose that I wanted to create my life. I just wanted a new life. I wanted a new outcome. I wanted healthier relationships. I wanted to feel empowered and on path. And that was exactly it. So it was through experts and understanding how I was thinking was creating my reality. And I applied those principles in Organo. I applied those principles in my business, because I was very careful about all my thoughts in building the structure. The mindset was absolutely fundamental. So being around the right people, being around the right circumstances, plugging in, taking care of my internal thoughts became the most important thing in my life, especially at the beginning, because that's when you're most vulnerable to being deflected and derailed on this particular path of network marketing, which is very unconventional. So you're going to get a lot of people with, different feedback and different people telling you different things about it. I was a big fan of following the people that were having the success. That was big for me.
You're wonderfully modest, and that's something we all enjoy about you, but you were handpicked by the guru of the galaxy to lead his team members. So my gosh, what an endorsement. And I love this quote that I heard you say, and I jotted it down one time, but diamond minds are created one thought at a time. And what a beautiful play on words. And I've heard you say this mantra many times. and you've taught your son, and he's such a joy to interact with. Things are always working out for you and your team and people who literally you attract because you do it so well. Now, we've shared this quote a few times, be the change you wish to see in the world. So what does that mean to you in terms of network marketing? What do you want to be in this universe of network marketing?
Well, I know the old paradigm of business just doesn't serve the world anymore. I think we're evolving as a species and as human beings. I mean, before we were much more in survival, and now the new paradigms of business and the new paradigms of success is really about almost like an ecosystem type of play, I should say. It's about being cooperative with each other. It's about harnessing the fundamentals of understanding and universal law and love, which is where you start to build that foundation of creating this fertile ground for growth for everyone. And when you believe that you can change the world one person at a time, you believe that you can impact lives, not only with the product that we have, but also with the business model, well, then all of a sudden you start vibrating at a higher frequency, and then you start attracting different levels of success in your life, because the laws of the universe that want the well-being of the planet are going to actually be behind you in the process of building. And this is where you have to really surrender into the energy of a cosmic growth and being a bigger version of yourself. So I saw Organo as an opportunity and a vehicle to help others really hone in on being able to believe in who they are, in facing their fears, in showing up as a leader, whether it was through health, whether it was through personal growth, it didn't matter. All I knew and I felt was that everyone that we touched, we were driving some level of change, some level of an aha moment. I made sure that every single training, every single presentation, every single one-on-one conversation, I delivered value. And I found that being a product of the product was the initial way to start, because when you realize that the company has an incredible product that's changing people's lives, literally, when you have people behind the product that are saying, oh my gosh, this testimonial, that testimonial, the testimonials are absolutely endless. It's because the body starts to give you feedback. Bodies don't lie, they're super honest. So you do have to be the product of the product when you start, because that's when your posture and your belief in the product grows. When that happens, you want to establish being the power of the actual company. When you start to understand what Organo stands for, the way we view the world, it's such a beautiful model. I mean, our leadership is so incredibly loving and powerful that it's exciting to be part of this new shift of consciousness in the way of doing business. And when that takes a hold, you become better and stronger and more proud of what you're doing. And that segues into being powerful behind the actual profession. And I'll tell you straight up, I was challenged with the stigma with network marketing. And that's okay, and it's normal. A lot of people feel the challenge and they don't want to face the fear. And what I decided to do, Dr. Bob, was I just decided to get professional and seek serious feedback from people that were having success. So there's 3 types of people you can listen to when you build this model. There's going to be people that have tried it and failed. And we know so many people that have dabbled in network marketing, but didn't have the right actions, didn't have the right support. Then there's the people that, have never done it, and they're going to have their opinions. And God knows I had tons of those. And then there's the ones that are actually doing it and having tremendous success. And those were the people I wanted to hang around. Those are the ones that I wanted the feedback from. So when I went to my first training and I started to hear other top earners around the world with products that didn't even compare to what Organo had to offer, I knew that I was sitting on the right vehicle for success. It was the perfect conditions for the perfect storm of a business success model. Why? We have an incredible leadership. We have an incredible product. We have a price competitive advantage. We have a wide open market. Are you kidding me? When you start looking at the statistics in network marketing and you understand this is a real profession that people all over the world, through many walks of life, irrelevant of gender, irrelevant of age, irrelevant of creed, have created a life of their dreams, wow, you become absolutely unstoppable. And that's when I knew that I was going to be a network marketing professional. I wanted to be a professional in this. I wanted to offer value. I wanted to walk into a room knowing that I knew that I was absolutely bulletproof on the product and absolutely bulletproof on the industry. And that's exactly what I maintained every moment that I could. It was absolutely a foundation to be able to grow. So, I find that until you face the fear and until you embrace the business and the model, you're going to struggle. But get clear on what's standing in your way and close the gap, because that will be the best investment you can make in yourself and with your team.
You've done a phenomenal job attracting and building an absolutely powerful team. And I really like, we both have a fondness for Sachin Patel, who's a friend and a mentor and a business partner. And he says, you know what? People have a very low standard when it comes to coffee. He says they'll go to a gas station, they'll drink this junk out of a styrofoam cup. And I want to be kind to the competition. Maybe I should phrase that differently. But at any rate, they have a low standard for it. So when you look, it's not a hard sell to get people to know that we have a better choice. So, I know that you've tried everything. You're a product of the product. You share it within your family. But, one of your stories that was so moving to me early on was the toothpaste. And they're reformulating it, so it's coming back even better yet. But can you share your toothpaste story? That was a game changer for me.
It was a game changer for me, actually. And, when I first got my box of products, I was kind of just dabbling in the beverage department. That's what kind of happens sometimes. And I see that often people are busy and they get their boxes and it can be a little overwhelming. What is all this? So you kind of take the things that are most appealing in the moment. And the toothpaste actually sat in my box for a while. And it wasn't until I felt challenged, because my son Dylan was probably about 4 at that time. And I was using Tom's organic, fluoride-free strawberry toothpaste, because he was child and I didn't want the fluoride. It was just a natural choice that I chose for him. And I started to notice this nasty yellow tart up along his gum line. And that's when I was like, I was kind of challenged because I didn't want to take him in for a deep scaling. It was hard as a rock. And actually, that's when I called you, Dr. Bob, and I wanted your advice. And you said, hey, have you tried the organo toothpaste? I said, you know what? Sitting in my box, I'll give it a shot. I started doing the toothpaste on him for 3 weeks in a row. And 3 weeks later, I just took a look at that gum line and I was absolutely shocked. 80 to 90% of that yellow tartar that was hard as a rock was gone. And the little bit that was there, I actually got a toothpick and I started kind of cleaning it off, and it started coming off almost like butter. Like it was just literally coming off, and I was shocked. Usually you need a scaling for that. And that's when I was like, wait a minute, there is something to this product. So powerful. When you look at Ganoderma as a medicinal mushroom, it has so many health benefits, it being incredible for oxygen delivery and anti-inflammatory and pH neutrality. You look at that, bacteria can thrive in the mouth under those conditions, which is why that toothpaste was such a hit. And we're all missing it and waiting for the new upgrade version to come, because we're so in love with the products. And that's exactly it. The products do half the work for you. You just got to go out there and share. And when you do that, people will crawl the walls looking for more. And I know every distributor on this call has had a story, or if not a few, of that alone. And if you haven't, that means you just haven't shared enough.
I want to share 2 testimonials that were part of we have a wonderful Facebook group that we've created, and we encourage everybody to do the same. But this one I shared with our CEO, Paul Caldwell. And I'll just go ahead and read it. It says, I'm forever thankful for Organo Gold. That's what they called it, because they've been in for a while. My son has not only improved with focus and his attention, but his anxiety and decreased his moods has improved. And my son helped dad build a skate ramp and now wants a job. My autistic, anxiety/panic-ridden, ADHD defiant child wants to work as a shoe salesman. This kid who is scared and anxious to be in public wants to talk to the public and sell shoes. I am mind blown. Here's a picture of him and he's actually listening to his dad for instructions. And just think that we can share, this is nowhere near anybody that we interacted with personally, but it falls down through because of the power of this business. And this is one that Sachin Patel posted, where this young boy, just 4 days, 4 hot chocolates later, came through a stutter. Now, you and I share the passion for the science, so many thousands of peer-reviewed medical studies, but I want you to talk about, you're a science, I don't want to use an flattering term, like geek like me, but you're a science person. But tell me about this quality certification. Tell me how that really has leveraged everything that you've created and the high level people you've brought in.
You know, Bob, I don't take that as offense at all. I am a science geek. I absolutely love the science behind things. I'm just one of those people that need to know how things work and why they work, because when I know something, then I run with it like a baton. And that's exactly what happened with Organo. It was, you know, through not only the experience people were having, but the fact that we had such great foundational information on Ganoderma. What was beautiful about just not only the information was the quality and the due diligence the company did when it came down to actually crossing their T's and dotting their I's. And they did an outstanding job with their certifications because, you know, I've moved a lot of products in throughout the years, in the last 20 years of practice. You know, we always want products and companies with third-party certifications. And Organo came out with not only the typical ones we see, but more. So they went over and beyond being GMP certified and kosher and halal. Many levels certification of organic. One of my favorites being EcoCert. EcoCert comes from Europe, and Europe is one of the most stringent standards for organics that actually are around the world right now. So to have that stamp of approval from many, many level third-party certification parties that can come in and saying, yep, they're doing it right. Yep, we've tested the soil. Yep, we've done this batch. We've looked at it. It's come back 100% clean. They are on top of their game. And that's what I loved about it. I love their open door policy. You can literally fly in and see the beautiful grounds of the Ganoderma lucidum. I had that chance in conversation with Miss Casey Nielsen, who was there last summer visiting the beautiful Wuxi Mountains of where everything's grown. And I look forward to taking that trip one day soon myself. And then on top of that, we have a patent technology as well, the crackshell spore rate, which is so powerful. And that's where I say, you know what? Just one cup of coffee alone, the more imbalanced body chemistry, the quicker they notice it. And I have never seen that with standard Ganoderma lucidum in the markets before. So this is when I realized, OMG, we are sitting on all the right conditions for the perfect storm for a wonderful, successful business model for those that want it. And for those that just want to impact health, well, knock yourself out, because there's something there for you too. And there's something for everybody. That's what I loved about this, you know. Sometimes the business isn't for everyone. Not everyone has an entrepreneurial spirit in their bones, but the product is for everybody. And that's what I especially loved about it. So their quality and their due diligence was absolutely outstanding. And that's when you start to realize, wow, this is so great. Now, you know, we can also expand on the fact that their leadership is so beautiful. I mean, Mr. Bernie Chua is absolute heart. And, you know, we had a chance to actually chat with him a little bit last Las Vegas event. And the first question Dr. Patel actually asked him was like, what is you excited about with Organo? His first answer, the people. What does that tell you? When someone, you're not expecting to be interviewed, you're the CEO of a company. This is Dylan, by the way. We do our business together. He wants to show his cat to the world because, you know, we have a little cat that we share our wonderful Organo with. Actually, we give Nico spores in his food every day. And by the way, it's great for animals too. Oh, and I'm sorry, he's just loving this, you know, sharing. He's bringing in all our Sapphire pins and all our pins that we earn throughout the business. Yes, as a mompreneur, Dylan is involved in the business, and we build this together, and it's great role modeling, and that's exactly it, the people. And you'll see Mr. Bernie Chua bring his grandson on stage, which is so powerful. He brings his family. He has his wife there. It's a family business. His daughter owns the business and carries it through as well. And Mr. Paul Caldwell was an absolute spectacular addition to this growth, a man who understands business, but not only that, he understands the power, that's okay, love. He understands the power of the new model of business success. He drives this with complete humility, with a vision of expansion, with fearlessness, and with an identity of abundance that there's no shortage in the world for anyone. That is fear-based business models that are being completely outdated. And I love what he stands for. I love how he's moving forward with things like the bags, you know, the beautiful bags that we're doing for our women, you know, in third countries who are actually having better lifestyles because of it. So all that's the vision of Mr. Paul Caldwell. And of course, our expansion to the BU line as well. Brilliant business model. Why? Because we want to ingest. We're health conscious people. We want better things for our body, better things for our family. Well, skin is no different. Skin is the largest organ, and it sucks in everything that you apply to it. I was always very conscious about using coconut oil on my skin. You know, I didn't want chemicals on my body. The BU line, the gorgeous, beautiful botanicals that they use, and the naturalness of it was such a beautiful complementary fit to this complete business model. What a brilliant idea was to expand, and that's exactly where we're going. We haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg of expansion yet. And I know, Dr. Bob, you can speak more on that. You have having a little more inside scoop with everything going on.
You know, I want to compliment you on being an amazing mompreneur in action. You know, I've seen you do this many times. You and Dylan build together. He's an amazing young man, but like all young men, he can change the game a little bit, and you flow with it so beautifully. So I love that. But when we look at your graph of growth, which I showed, and those were your actual numbers, your business was on a nice climb, and then it just went off like a rocket ship when this new leadership came into play. So there was something you saw, and, you know, talking to Paul Caldwell, he says, we're going to add a vertical. Guess what? Meaning another thing that people can just add. So just for people on the call, imagine you have an organization. We'll use an easy number to calculate with 1,000 people, which ultimately we can get to. And what if they use an extra $50 a month of skincare? That's $50,000 a month extra in product. And what if they average $50 a month in travel, which they're rolling out this year? Well, 100 now, 50 plus 50 times 1,000, that's 100,000 extra a month. And so Organo's creating the opportunity for all of us to win. And I really love how you fully identify with that expansiveness, that abundance. It's a big enough world for everybody. You know, Paul Caldwell said many times on leadership calls, we'll meet people where they are, and we want to create an ecosystem that they want to be a part of. So the next thing that I think you do as well as any human I've ever met is consistency. And I'll quote Sachin Patel on that: consistency carves canyons. So how have you done that? Because I think you have more irons in the fire, so to speak, with just your life in general. We go to your beautiful mother and your incredible son. There's a lot of things going on with you. How do you do it?
Well, number one, you have to be the role model. Your team will do what you do, not what you say. So I am in the trenches with the team all the time. We are a unified vision, and you will attract who you are into the business. So consistency was huge, absolutely massive. Number one, yes, using the product. That is massive. You have to love your product. If you're not passionate and in love with your product, forget being able to do this business. You will not be a 6-7 figure income earner if you're striving for that and not be passionate and congruent with the product. So that's number one. Number two is sharing of it and following up. That is the secret sauce. You know, all the top earners around the world know that the fortune's in the follow-up. If you're not following up, you're actually letting a lot of potential business fall through the cracks. And it's just being consistent in that process. And then, of course, you know, sharing the opportunity and sharing the frequency use of the product, sharing the personal development side of it all. We do personally develop. We train every week. We do events all around the clock. There was a seminar I took with top earners around the world, and they said, you know what? You can dictate your income based on your calendar. If there's no scheduled meetings, trainings, presentations, one-on-ones, follow-ups, calls in your calendar, I can predict your income. And I took that to heart. You know, people treat this like a hobby, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is that you have to start treating it like a business, and that's exactly what I did. So I said, calendar, here we go. If I saw 2 weeks empty, Dr. Bob, I would panic. I'd be like, okay, 2 weeks empty, OMG, we need a mixer. And I would pick up the phone and say, hey guys, you know, mixer. I would just schedule it in. I didn't care if it was 6 months later. I didn't care if it was a week later. I didn't care if it was 3 days later. We were going to have a group of people to meet with and share the product and the opportunity. That started to catapult to weekly meetings. Why? Because the team started to grow. And I needed a space that was an official Organo meeting space where we could provide product information, actual Organo presentations, and training. And this is where I opened up the doors to any cross lines that were lingering in the city. There weren't very many, but they were beautiful, hungry people looking for an opportunity. And when you want to grow a business, you grow your business. But if you want to grow an actual empire, you grow organo. And those cross lines were family to me. I didn't care if they came from a different upline. This world is so big. With 6 million people alone in our city, you think I'm going to feel afraid and in competition with someone that sees the same vision I do? That's impossible. Fear makes you make the most scarcity decisions. And for me, it was the opposite. I only saw abundance. So because of us being a unified force and unified family, we started meeting every week and actually hosting Organo Hotel meetings. And our goal in those meetings were, number one, to respond to your current team. And I learned this through you, Dr. Bob. When we first started doing presentations, we get confused thinking the presentation means you're going to get new business right away. No, it's a relationship business. You got to inspire your current team. Then you got to train them by role modeling and also offering things that they can build and learn and be motivated on. And then you will have an opportunity to sponsor new team members, because that by default will happen as long as you lead them from exposure to exposure to exposure. And that's the art of this. Sometimes we get so desperate and people want it so quickly to sign people up right away that the energy is not right, and people can feel that desperation. You want to build from a place of sharing and congruency and unattachedness, because if you surrender into the fact that you believe you're going to be led, you will be. And you just have to give it some time, but it will naturally unfold. And it was a process I too had to learn, because this is a unconventional business model. At the beginning, there's a lot of effort involved, but over time, it starts to actually pay off, and you start to see the fruits of your effort. And I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges with this type of business model, is that people want results right away. And that's where you have to put in the work and the time. And like any farmer, you plant seeds and you're going to get everything. You're going to get a big oak tree. You're going to get, little seedlings, saplings, and you're going to get seeds that never sprout, and that's okay. You just have to nurture them along the way. And that's the art behind driving this train and helping your team do the same thing. And now you're all in sync and in the same vibration.
Yeah, you've created an epic environment there that we so all enjoy going to visit, but you showed up no matter what. It didn't matter who was there. You always showed up. You always brought it. And I also remember, if there were no guests, that was a perfect time to give someone else the marker and put them to the front of the room. But let's talk about perseverance, because there's plenty of people that start out really, thinking, okay, I'm going to take on the world. And then when they don't get there at whatever their timetable is, they often disappear. But I want you to tell me about the snowstorm. You were in the car. I'll set the stage. You were driving to a mixer. You got your first residual check. What was your first residual check? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. I remember hearing one of the biggest pieces of advice that I still use today with the current team: whoever holds the marker makes the money. You have to be in a place to be willing to do talks and presentations. And until your posture shows up, you're not owning your business until you do that. Because you're not being a leader of your life. You're actually being a follower and depending on someone else. And Dr. Bob, it was a blessing that you didn't live in Toronto, because I couldn't depend on you. You had to fly to Houston, do your thing. I respected you so much that I couldn't even, ask for certain things that a new distributor might ask me for. So this is where I said, okay, I'm going to hold the marker. I made a commitment every week to go out and do a presentation. And it was a place that was an hour away from Toronto. It was my first distributor. And at that time, in Toronto, it gets dark at around 5 o'clock in the wintertime. And I don't like driving in the snow. But I was committed to holding the marker. I wanted a new life. I wanted a new outcome. I wanted Organo to work. And I remember holding that marker so many times throughout the winter. And at the end of that month, I made $5. And I remember driving in the snow. My mom was in the front seat because she felt sorry for me. I think she didn't want me to drive by myself in the dark, with my son in the car seat in the back. And I remember driving and thinking I made $5 after all that work. And see, this is where you kind of have to start thinking, a new way of thinking, because I had that employee mindset. The employee mindset of, I put in so many hours, I should have made more. Well, yeah, if you're trading time for money. But when you are an entrepreneur and you're in business, your currency or the way you grow the business is through sweat equity. And I didn't realize that effort I put in that first month was going to pay me 100-fold. But that first month I made $5. And I remember holding back my tears, wanting to cry in the car, because I couldn't believe that after all that, I had bills to pay. The water was up to here, and I made $5. And I didn't want my mother to see me cry. I didn't want my new distributor, my God, she was, she had friends over, and I'm going to go do the presentation, and I wanted to quit so badly. And all I did was I just remember thinking, my leadership, Dr. Bob and Kelly Rakowski, would not be doing this if it wasn't worth their time. It was complete belief and trust in the leadership and the business that I pushed through. And I showed up at that event. I gave my best presentation, but here's what happens. When you hold the marker and you do the presentation, the first person you sponsor is yourself. Because you stand up and you're moving the energy of the room, you become the thermostat of that room, man, you start changing your life. Because remember, what we think and how we feel creates our frequency and our reality. When I show up as a leader and I'm passionate, all of a sudden those tears went away. And I left there feeling really great about the business again. And that was the secret, perseverance, keeping the goal in mind, knowing that it will happen. You just have to be consistent and just keep going at it one day at a time. But it gets more exciting and it gets better. And you'll learn as you earn at the same time. And that's where 5 turned into 50, turned into 500, turned into 5,000. And it started to grow exponentially. And that was another thing that I had to wrap my head around was, even though you made $5 in a month, doesn't mean you're going to make $10 in 2. It could be 500 in 2. It could be 5,000 in 2. It could be whatever you want it to be. Just make a decision of how you're going to show up so that can happen for you.
Well, the business model matches what I know about you as a human, and that is you are phenomenal at synergy. I mean, that is actually the name of your nutrition business. Because the name was taken, you had to get a creative spelling on it, but you just wanted the concept, right? It was the energy of synergy, helping people put their lives together, their nutrition to better, everything together. And as far as anybody I know that I've seen do it, you've done the best job with that one team, that one dream. And you explained it really, really well. But from the very beginning, it didn't matter who wanted to come, who was their sponsor, where they were from. No connection to your money line whatsoever until the global pool came around. Wasn't until a little bit later. And I know they absolutely love you, but that's such a powerful statement. I literally want you to talk about that again. How did you have that mindset that everybody was welcome and you formed such a beautiful OG family in Toronto and everywhere you go?
Organo is a fairly new business. It's only 11 years old in the marketplace. We have not hit critical mass at all. In fact, if you look at our city and most cities around the world, for every 100 people you ask, no one's ever heard of Organo. There is no room for fear and there is no room for selfishness, because when you're in fear is when you become selfish. When you're in fear is when you become scarcity driven. And if what you think and how you feel creates your reality, well, I was going to focus on a reality I didn't want to create for myself, which was scarcity. And I knew that joining forces with other cross lines who were heart-centered and had the best of intentions would be a win-win for both of us. I would help change their lives as they would contribute to mine. It's a synergism. It's a symbiotic relationship. I win, they win. We are in this together. And the unification of the team in Toronto, you cannot tell that we're cross lines at all. And in fact, when we go to destination events, when we all drive across the border and we carpool together and we're in the USA to see one of the top leaders, and no one can tell whose team we're on, or when we go to the Organo destination events and we're saving seats for each other, irrelevant if we're crossline, is when we show up because we just sincerely love each other. And they're like my family. I don't care that they're crossline, but here's the beautiful part. Organo has a global pool where we do eventually become family all together. And I think it's one of the most brilliant compensation pieces that a lot of companies don't have. And I know this because I've been approached by other top earners wanting to talk to me about their business. And I let them have their moment. But a lot of them are very taken back by the fact that we have a global pool. Are you kidding me? When you're Ruby, Emerald, or Diamond, you pulled the world resources of all the Emerald, Rubies, and Diamonds around the world. Well, guess what? I want those cross lines to go Ruby, Emerald, and Diamond. So we can take this business model and bring it to critical mass. My gosh, we haven't even gone there yet. So there's so much potential and so much abundance. There's no such thing as limitation or scarcity. I don't believe in that at all. And I create my reality. So that's exactly what's happening. And it's just been so beautiful. So I congratulated Toronto when we went down because it was a unified effort. Every single person, cross line, down line, up line, it didn't matter. Every single person was involved in that diamond celebration. It wasn't mine. It was a collaborative effort. I was just the first person to pierce the ceiling. My goal was to dive back in and hoist every single other person that wants to join that rank or not. We're going to love you and meet you where you're at. If you're hungry and coachable, welcome aboard. And if you are happy selling, consuming, sharing, doesn't matter. It's all beautiful and it's all powerful, and we're changing lives, and that's all I know.
I want to go with this next part. I think you are the best networker that I know. And I always tell that, when the team asks about networking, I say, okay, let's put you in touch with Dianne Solano because she's the best. But we had a wonderful meal, right? We had a leadership dinner, and I think there was probably, let's say, 35 people that were there, and Miss Casey Nielsen-Martin, phenomenal keynote speaker that did so much for us. But at that table of 40 leaders, if I'm not mistaken, there was one person that you personally sponsored. And if I remember correctly, you actually had a partnership with a co-promotion for a seminar that ultimately brought in the elite Satya Patel. But let's look at this. So I want to go to these incredible leaders. So you've got a Ruby that's second deep. You've got a Sapphire 4 deep, another Sapphire 3 deep, and then the Emerald that you came through by having the insight to create an amazing synergistic seminar. That's the ultimate word for how you do this. It's pure synergy. But let's talk about these great leaders and how you came to know them and how they become such an amazing part of your family.
One thing I learned intuitively, and then I learned afterwards, that was a great strategy. I had no clue. It was just more like unconscious competence, just the way Tony Robbins calls it, was that all my efforts that went into building Organo, I was a big fan of driving depth. Because, you're going to sponsor the first person that you know. And sometimes when people are too close to you, they don't exactly respect you. It's just the law of familiarity. And what I realized was if I could access their network and drive their depth, well, then at the very least, they were committed and staying in on their reorders. Because with our brilliant compensation plan, the dual team payout is brilliant because it starts to build equity and residual for someone if they're not ready to build yet, but it starts to accumulate if they put in their minimum monthly orders. So all I did was start going into the deeper dives of their network, and I met most of my leaders level 2, 3, 4 down. And I took them on as my own. And I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes people make in network marketing is they're like, well, I didn't sponsor them, so the person that sponsored them should do the work. No, because not everybody wants to build at this level. I mean, if that's what you want to do, if you want to be a top earner, you got to taproot. And taproot means you go down the line to find who is the next hungry, coachable person that you want to develop into a leader. Because if you can do that, you're going to sustain the livelihood of everyone else above them. And that's exactly what happens. Sometimes people just need to see you winning because they either don't believe in themselves or they don't believe in the business model. And if you can show that the business model works, eventually over time, they start to plug in. And that's exactly what happened. When I went Emerald, I started to have uplines from my downlines that I created leadership out of, starting to now wanting to know more and started getting hungry to build, which is fascinating. But depth will build your stability. This is what people think, okay, I sponsor, but everyone's dropping off. If you really focus on driving the depth, you'll build that stability that you're looking for as you gently keep going wide. So it's an art of doing both, but I was very, very focused on driving depth, and I still am as of today. If I find someone who's hungry, coachable, I want them to call me. I want them to ask questions. I want to come over and do a mixer for them. I want to find their network and show them the ropes. And then everything else is going to sift through. And that's exactly how I found almost every single leader here was found through depth. And that's the exciting piece is usually when I do trainings, I'll tell everyone in the room, hey, who here did I personally sponsor? I'll be lucky if 1 or 2 put up their hands. Everyone else I met through the depth of the networks of the person who knew the person who knew the person. And it was just being in rapport, offering quality, knowing how to interact with people that always allowed people to open their doors to me. And we just built it from living room to living room. And that's exactly how we just got this organization thriving.
I want to personally give an incredible shout out because the teamwork that I saw, and you talk about attracting just right. So Miss Delina Wint, had set up a venue for me to speak at a major fitness conference in Toronto, which put me in town to literally be there as I watched this team pull together the whole month. the diamond was on the target, even though you were a rock solid emerald, and everyone came through. Literally everyone came through. But I want to give a massive shout out. Vanita, I had never seen so much belief, so much drive, so much, Diane's going to succeed. This is going to be it. Dianne and Dylan, everything for them. Paul and Nancy, beyond belief in how they have been there really from the beginning, right? You refer to Paul as your co-pilot. Miss Karen Thimer, fun that she's as blue as you can be, and sapphire is her color until, of course, she becomes ruby very, very soon. And then the sage of wisdom, Sachin Patel, and his beautiful wife, Deepa. You did an amazing job to make all that happen. But what I think beyond that, your skill set is unmatched. It really is. But you are the best event promoter there that I've seen. So how do you do it? How do you get so many people to destination events? And what have they done for you?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing up the leaders. They're also dear to my heart. Like I just love them so much. And we just have this bond. It's so powerful. And it's a family. We're a family now. And I felt that running for Diamond. It was so incredible how, you know, the will of the team was there. It was like a tsunami that was actually funneling me forward in making Diamond happen. And I just am in gratitude and in thankfulness for meeting these beautiful souls. And, you know, for me, going back to the fundamentals of building an organization, I was born in an event. That's what happened. That's why I'm so passionate about events, is because, you know, yes, there's going to be the day you sign the application that you want to build this business. And you're going to make that decision with your mind. And then there's the day that you want to build this business from your heart, because you know that you know that you know that you either do it or you die trying. And that was me. And that decision came at my very first event. I understood the business model. I understood the capacity of this. I understood the beautiful synergism and the wonderful, wonderful, you know, things we had in our hands for Organo to thrive as an incredible, incredible vehicle for a new life. And it was the power of the event that actually launched me. I was born at my first event. And when I went to my first event, I came back and I knew that we were going to do this or I was going to die trying. There was no choice. It was like the story, you know, of the ships that land at the island and they're going into war, and you either burn them and you watch those ships. There is no going back. You either win or you die, and that's it. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't know how, but I just knew that I would. And it was through the events that catapulted me from one experience to another revelation to another revelation. And I just really pushed the team and coached them to go for the events, to go for the incentive trips. You know, every consensus is the same in network marketing, irrelevant of the company. The consensus is the same. You will never meet a top earner that has not gone to event to event to event. Events will build your business faster than anything else. It'll build your team faster than everything else. And we do events all around the board. There's a company destination events. Then we have our weekly hotel events. Then we do events that are centered around guest speakers that have come into the market. And you can see every event has driven the business of not only myself, but of the team. It raises our belief. It closes the gap of understanding. It lets us believe that we can become bigger and better than what we originally came in as. And that's what they say with top earners. You know, you start off with your why, but eventually it's about who do you want to become? Who do you want to become? How do you want to impact the world? Who do you want to be? Because when you show up for that, that's when everything changes. That's when you start having quantum leaps of these beautiful coincidences and this beautiful inertia that you don't know where it came from. And that's when you're working, you know, with a higher source and a higher frequency. So that's exactly what we modeled. You know, every event brought us to a new pinnacle. Every event built towards a new pin and kept the rock solidness of it going along with the team as well.
I had so much fun graphing out your success. And by the way, for people that are watching, I do this with my top 12 leaders. And your growth is exemplary in every way. But your first event, you were born. Then you went Sapphire within 3 months. You were rock solid Sapphire. Then you went Ruby, you were rock solid Ruby. There was you went Emerald to help us go Blue Diamond. Thank you so much. And then ultimately you became an absolutely rock solid Emerald. But one of the points I want to make out here is you had 12 events in 15 months. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, how many does Organo have? You personally either sponsored or created plenty of events. So with, Magic Johnson as a keynote, John Maxwell as a keynote, I know you brought a bunch of people to a destination event. Then you created this event where Satya Patel came in, which was so fascinating. Then you said, okay, let's do a Super Saturday or Super Sunday. And Mr. Edwin Haynes was on the docket. And then how are we going to follow that? We're going to follow it with Super E, Mr. Emmanuel Bernstein. And then you created this event a year later where guess what? The crown jewel of this event was connecting with Satya Patel, who suddenly now he is bringing his energy, his expertise, his passion. Miss Casey Nielsen Martin, you literally, these five were 100% your creation, and this one was such a big part of your promotion. But you also had a Sapphire Bootcamp. So some of the top leaders in the world said, okay, create a leadership event for your people. And I'm gonna share a few more slides after that, but I want you to talk a little bit about this boot camp and what that did for you and your team.
The business challenge for most of the new distributors coming in is belief and having a sense of a roadmap on what to do and how to do it. And the questions are the same, irrelevant of the background, the gender, the age. I mean, unless you've made 6-7 figures in network marketing before, you really don't know what you're doing. So what we do in Toronto is we do our weekly hotel meetings. I still build from living room to living room, and we light little fires all around the GTA. And what we do is we bring in third-party evidence, third-party expertise, someone like yourself, Dr. Bob, someone like Mr. Emmanuel Bernstein, someone like Miss Casey Nielsen, to dump gasoline all over those little fires. Because third-party evidence of an expert, when your people get used to you, builds a lot of momentum and rapport. So there's this energy that starts to build around, OMG, I didn't realize the power of the business. I didn't realize the power of the product. And it's those events that really helped catapult the synergism, the tightness, the commitment to growing this business model for everyone. Sapphire Bootcamp was definitely the brainchild of Mr. Jacob Rakowski. I can't take credit for that. He was the one that came up with the concepts and the idea. I just thought it was a brilliant idea. So we started to run Sapphire Bootcamps in Toronto as well, where, the beginning of the business is the hardest time because that's when you have the most doubt. That's when you have the least experience. That's when you're challenged by the people in your world thinking you're crazy or you're judged on network marketing. And that's when the most people tend to quit, is between being, a distributor and running for Sapphire. You get your biggest dropouts at that time frame. So what if we can close the gap and help people understand it was normal to feel like you didn't know anything. It was normal to be judged. It was normal. And start to help give them tools on how to build and sustain until they get to Sapphire, until they can have an organization that starts kind of running on their own. Because at the beginning, it's like rounding cats. I mean, you're here, you're everywhere, but unless you know what to do with that, it becomes very challenging. So if you can close the gap, get people to Sapphire closer, better, faster, well, now you've got them in the first level of leadership. They're getting another depth of payment. They're getting, that monthly leadership bonus. Now we can start building towards Ruby. But it's usually that initial phase I find to be the most challenging and the biggest dropout zone as well. So Sapphire Bootcamp was, again, a brilliant concept that we definitely continue building upon. Nope, I can't hear you, Dr. Bob. Your sound's out.
I'm back, thank you. Yes, so tell me about the trip to corporate. What did that do for your belief? What did that do for the bonding? What did that do, look at the people in that picture, and that's where all the leaders are. It's phenomenal, but tell me about that.
Again, I can't take credit for the idea. This was from Mr. Jacob Rakowski himself. And yourself, Dr. Bob and Kelly, you guys came up with the incentive trip, the leadership incentive trip to OG headquarters. Brilliant. I didn't even realize how brilliant it was until I arrived. Why? We see pictures of Organo headquarters. We hear about how it's in Richmond, BC. Until you actually show up and you get to actually incorporate and touch and speak to the people that are running the orders, that are helping you. That's when you really start to realize how powerful this is. So much respect. That beautiful building alone is feng shui. The color of their carpets are the color of black mocha latte coffee. Their lamps are made of forms of Ganoderma lucidum or spores. I mean, there's so much feng shui and thought that went into this building. You start to really appreciate what we have and how close we are to corporate. It's not this random pie in the sky place. It's a place you can walk into where you're welcomed with open arms, and you get to actually see real people behind the scenes. You get closer to the company. You drive it closer to your heart. You become more of a unified family with the idea of corporate. I thought it was brilliant, and I think it should be done again and again and again. And I encourage any team out there, if you can create a leadership incentive and go to Vancouver, make it fun, go on trails, team building, see leadership, see corporate. So powerful. And we strive to do that. One thing I learned very quickly, and I still really, really, incentivize the team to do, is always go for the incentive trips. Always go for the incentive trips, whether they're company or you can create your own incentive trips. You don't have to wait for the company's incentive trips to do things. So, the leadership visit to Organo headquarters was the brainchild of the Rakowski family. And that's where I said, you know what, another incentive, let's do it. If you qualify, here's the qualifications, make it happen. Same with Seize the Moment. My very first time I went on that cruise ship, I qualified and I went by myself and it sucked. I remember I walked in on that cruise ship and I walked around and I'm like, I will never come back to another incentive by myself. In fact, I want to strive to have a bigger team every single year. And what I realized was if you just focus on what it takes to get on the incentive trips, you by default will grow a very powerful business. Because a lot of people get lost on the details and the information and there's just so much to absorb. Keep it simple. What do you need to get on that incentive trip? And focus on that. And ask questions as you go along, but focus on that because you by default will grow a powerful business. Oh, and by the way, you'll get an incredible trip from somewhere around the world. So the team does very well at striving for the incentives.
So you've definitely modeled that. So right now you've got on your team, you've got the number 1 OG incentive, you've got the number 3, you've got the number 7, you got plenty of the top 20, 30, 40, and you do it. And this, by the way, was I think it was the brainchild of Paul Charlton because, we've got Nam who's good at working in depth, and thank you so much, Crown Ambassador, Mr. Namdo, and then Jacob, and then myself, and Kelly had family duty. She actually, we had a family obligation. She said, you go take care of the business, I'll go take care of the family. So thank you for that, Kelly. And then you, and then there's the guy that'll be maybe on the next trip, right? Because he needs to fit in there and all these wonderful people on your team. But the path to diamond is pretty clear. Look at all the events that you did, and all of these that I circled were things that you created. And if you want the path to diamondship, you just do what you've done, which is your own magnificent 7, including being the best promoter, and the best promoters get promoted. So whatever words you want to say, wrapping up, so epic. I'm so proud of you. The OG world is grateful for you, and I know they're going to see a whole lot more, but how do you want to wrap this final minute or two up of this beautiful conversation?
I want to give thanks to yourself, Dr. Bob and Kelly Rakowski, and Jacob and Mr. Namdo. You guys were so critical at the beginning, and you still are. Every single one of you, you all have this beautiful gift to help build the team and help me leverage my business, because we're in business for ourselves, but we're not by ourselves. So that's definitely huge. So I want to thank you for that. Number 2, I'm honored to be part of the Diamond team now within Organo, because I believe that if we synergize together, we can help make the world a better place through the vehicle of Organo. Oh, and by the way, be able to create the life of our dreams that we've ever wanted. So now, I don't have to worry about buying groceries. I don't have to worry about paying bills. I don't have to worry about anything in the future anymore, because Organo has shown up because I showed up. And it will go as big and as far as I want it to. So make a decision to do this. Stop playing small. Treat it like a business. Get clear on what you want and get creative in making it happen, because it's in the creativity that the juices start flowing. It's in the creativity that you start creating the life of your dreams, and never give up, because giving up on your dream means giving up on yourself.
So beautifully said. So with that said, let's wish our Organo world a beautiful good night. And thank you all so very much.